The office building always looked different after hours. During the day, it buzzed with conversations, printers, hurried footsteps, and the constant hum of people trying to look busier than they really were. But at night, when the lights dimmed and the city outside softened into a quiet hum, the place felt honest. No performance, no polished smiles, just walls and echoing hallways. Marcus Reed preferred it that way. He walked through the lobby, pushing a cleaning cart. Polish, sanitizer, gloves neatly arranged. His uniform was clean and pressed, not because anyone cared, but because he did. He moved with an easy, steady rhythm, the kind of calm that doesn't come from defeat, but from self-possession. Marcus nodded to the overnight security guard. "Evening, Andre." "Evening, Mr. Reed." The guard said it with respect, not habit. Respect earned. Marcus took the elevator to the fourth floor, the floor where all the associates, analysts, and assistants worked, the floor where people left half-eaten lunches in the fridge and coffee stains on the counters, the floor where no one noticed the person who cleaned up after them. The elevator doors opened to quiet. During the day, this floor was full of people who talked fast, moved fast, and assumed every bit of space belonged to them. They walked past Marcus without looking, without a nod, without a hello, not because they were busy, but because they didn't see him. To them, he was furniture. Marcus began wiping down tables in the break room when the door suddenly swung open. Two office workers walked in, Evan and Lori, both mid-20s, both dressed in expensive business casual, both glowing with the kind of confidence that came from never being questioned. Evan glanced at Marcus and immediately looked away. Lori didn't even bother to do that. "Oh God, my presentation was a disaster," she groaned, opening the fridge. "I swear, if management would just hire better people, maybe the building wouldn't look like a joke." Marcus kept wiping the table. Same calm, same steady rhythm. Evan sat on the counter, scrolling his phone. "The carpet in the lobby looks awful again. You'd think they'd invest in upkeep. This place needs a real owner, not whatever bargain landlord they've got." Marcus didn't react. He finished the table, rinsed the cloth, moved on to the cabinets. Lori sighed dramatically, shaking her head. Like, honestly, I don't even know why the janitorial staff is still even here. "No offense," she added without looking at him, which meant she knew the words were offensive, but didn't care. Marcus paused, just for a breath. Not out of anger, out of disappointment so quiet it didn't need expression. He looked at them, not with annoyance, not with bitterness, but with clarity. "None taken," he said calmly. "People don't always understand what they're looking at." Lori didn't understand the sentence. She laughed like she heard nothing at all. They left, carrying their entitlement with them, down the hall and into their world, where they believed they sat at the center. Marcus watched the door close behind them. Then he continued working. Not because he was small, not because he was beneath them, but because he knew something they didn't. The deed to the building, the mortgage, the management contracts, the future of this place were in his name. They walked through his halls, drank coffee brewed with his water service, sat at desks under his electricity. They had no idea. Not yet. Marcus finished polishing the counter, turned off the break room lights, and smiled to himself. The kind of smile that comes from knowing exactly who you are, even when others don't. Tomorrow would come. And with it, understanding. Morning changed everything. The building buzzed again. Heels clicking on tile, elevators chiming, keyboards clattering, voices layered on voices. People hurried not because of purpose, but because rushing made them feel important. Marcus arrived early, not with the cleaning cart, not in uniform. Today, he wore a charcoal suit, clean lines, subtle tailoring, a quiet expression of power. He didn't need a label or a logo. Confidence, when real, doesn't need decoration. He walked through the lobby, nodding once to Andre at security. Andre straightened in his seat, eyes lighting slightly. "Morning, Mr. Reed." Marcus smiled. "Morning." Upstairs on the fourth floor, Evan and Lori were leaning over a desk, half laughing, half whispering, retelling last night's conversation as if it were entertainment instead of evidence. The janitor literally just stood there, Lori said, rolling her eyes. No pride, no standards. I swear, the building owner must be the cheapest man alive. She's here, someone hissed from the hallway. The chatter died, because management had arrived. The conference room door opened and General Manager Elaine Ryder stepped out. A composed woman in her 50s, sharp gaze, deliberate movements. Behind her walked Marcus, in a suit, not a uniform. Lori blinked. Evan straightened, hand frozen midair. Everyone else assumed he was a consultant, maybe a contractor, maybe an auditor, the kind of person they'd pretend to impress until he left. Elaine cleared her throat. I'd like everyone's attention, please. Chairs shifted, bags dropped, conversations stopped. As of today, our building ownership has changed hands. The transition occurred at the start of the quarter, and now that the legal filings are finalized, I would like to formally introduce the new owner and property director. She stepped aside. Marcus didn't raise his chin, didn't widen his stance, didn't announce himself. He simply stood, present, whole, unbothered. Evan's face went pale. Lori's mouth opened, but no words came out. Marcus spoke gently. Good morning. Some of you have seen me here before. A quiet ripple of recognition passed through the room. I've spent the past month getting to know how this building runs, quietly, observing what works and what doesn't. He let that settle. Then he continued. I believe every person in a workplace deserves to be acknowledged, with respect, regardless of job title. No one breathed. No one moved. Lori stared at her shoes. Evan swallowed hard. Marcus didn't look at them specifically. He didn't need to. The environment we create here will reflect who we are. If we want excellence, we start with dignity. Silence deepened, heavy, thoughtful, undeniable. Then Elaine gestured. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Reed to his new role. Soft applause, not forced, not uncertain, shifted, aware. Marcus nodded humbly and stepped back. He didn't need victory. He had truth. As people dispersed, quiet, reflective, changed, Lori approached him slowly, unsure of her steps. She didn't know whether to apologize, explain, or pretend nothing had happened. Marcus saved her from the panic of choosing. He spoke gently. Hello, Lori. Her voice trembled. I didn't know. Marcus nodded once. I know. No anger, just reality. A mirror held up, in calm hands. She swallowed. Is there anything I can do to make this right? Marcus met her eyes. Not cold, not warm, just steady. Yes, he said. See people. And then he walked past her, down the hallway that had always been his, now recognized by everyone else. The building didn't transform overnight. No dramatic speeches, no mass firings, no sudden corporate reforms. It changed in smaller ways first, quiet, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. The next morning, Marcus arrived again in his suit. Not flashy, not loud, just present, steady. The kind of presence that couldn't be dismissed as background anymore. People noticed, they nodded, they greeted him. Their voices softened when speaking to the cleaning staff. Not because they feared punishment, but because suddenly they saw what they had been blind to before. The janitor wasn't invisible anymore, which meant none of them were. Marcus walked the halls slowly, not inspecting, just existing. Every floor, every department. People sat up straighter when he passed, not out of intimidation, but out of respect. They didn't know they owed before. In the break room, the same one where Lori and Evan had spoken about him like he wasn't there, the atmosphere was different. Employees cleaned their own spills, took their dishes to the sink, wiped the counter without being asked. Marcus brewed coffee, not a statement, just habit. As it finished, Evan stepped in, shoulders lowered, hands awkward at his sides. Morning, Mr. Reed. Marcus looked at him once, then turned back to the coffee machine. Morning. Evan hesitated. The silence wasn't heavy. It was honest. That made it harder. I wanted to say, I shouldn't have talked about you like that. Marcus poured coffee slowly. You talked about me the way you talk about everyone who works where you don't look, he said simply. No accusation, no sharp edge. Just truth with edges sanded smooth. Evan swallowed. I didn't realize. You didn't try to, Marcus corrected gently. Evan nodded, shame showing in small, quiet ways. Avoiding eye contact, hands still. What now? Evan asked finally. Marcus handed him a second mug. No ceremony, no lesson. Just two human beings sharing space. Now, Marcus said, you do better. Evan nodded. Yes, sir. Marcus shook his head. No titles. Respect doesn't require rank. Evan took the mug with both hands, as if grounding himself. Later that week, something else happened. Subtle but more telling than any apology. Lori was in the hallway carrying a heavy box of printed reports. In the past, she would have marched past the night crew without looking twice. But now, she paused when she saw Tanya, one of the cleaning staff, mopping nearby. Hey, Lori said softly, adjusting her grip. Do you need help with anything? Tanya blinked, surprised. No, I'm okay, thanks. Lori nodded, and then, without forcing anything, she said, I never really said hello before. I should have. I'm Lori. Tanya smiled, small but real. I know, I'm Tanya. A beginning. Not perfection, but movement. Across the lobby, Marcus watched, not close enough for them to notice, just near enough to witness. His expression didn't change. No smile, no approval, just quiet acknowledgement. People were starting to see, not him, themselves. Respect was no longer a reaction to authority. It was becoming culture. Marcus walked outside into the crisp air, the city waking bright around him. Cars rolled past, sunlight reflecting off windows, footsteps tapping pavement. He breathed in and exhaled slow. He didn't need thanks. He didn't need recognition. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He simply owned the building. And now, he owned the atmosphere inside it too. The boardroom on the top floor was a different world from the cubicles below. Glass walls, long mahogany table, a skyline view that made the city look small. This was where power had always lived, where decisions were made by people who shook hands with confidence and spoke in polished voices, where Marcus had once sat silently during acquisition negotiations, letting other men assume he was a silent partner, an assistant, a legal observer, anything except the person actually making the final call. Today, every seat at the table was full. 10 board members, men in tailored suits, women with sharp eyes and sharper language, the kind of crowd that measured people not by character, but by perception. The last to walk in was Richard Hayes, senior partner of the leasing management firm that used to oversee the building. He adjusted his tie as he entered, carrying the air of someone who believed the room belonged to him. Until he saw Marcus at the head of the table. He stopped, blinking once, then twice. Mr. Reed, Richard said slowly, are you filling in for the owner today? The question hung in the room. No one breathed. Marcus didn't react with surprise or irritation, just clarity. No, he said, I'm not filling in. He folded his hands on the table. I am the owner. The silence that followed wasn't loud. It was absolute. Richard laughed, once weakly. That must be a misunderstanding. You were janitorial staff. A few board members looked away uncomfortable. Others looked at Marcus as if seeing him for the first time. Marcus didn't raise his voice. I was here, observing how the building was treated, how people were treated. I learned more from those nights than I ever could from sitting up here. He leaned slightly forward. And what I saw was a workplace operating on hierarchy instead of humanity. People deciding who mattered based on job titles, on appearances, on assumptions. Richard's smile faltered. Are you implying we mistreated you? No, Marcus said. His tone held no anger, only truth. I'm stating you mistreated many. A few heads bowed. One woman cleared her throat. And what do you intend to change? Marcus didn't hesitate. Everything that requires changing. He clicked his folder open, presented documents, plans, budgets, proposals, quiet, efficient, already complete. We are restructuring custodial and service wages, effective immediately. Full health care, tuition support, and advancement opportunities. One of the older board members stared. You're paying the janitors like professionals. Marcus nodded once. They are professionals. Richard leaned forward, voice breaking with frustration. You're rewarding the lowest tier workers with benefits our senior staff don't receive? Marcus met his eyes. If that bothers you, you're welcome to resign. The room froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Richard looked around for support. No one offered it. Respect had shifted, quietly, steadily, irreversibly, to the man who earned it. Marcus closed the folder. We're building a workplace that recognizes dignity. Those who cannot work within that culture will not continue here. He didn't ask. He didn't threaten. He set terms. Richard slowly sat back. The board said nothing, because there was nothing to argue. Marcus stood and the room stood with him, not out of fear, out of acknowledgement. He walked to the elevator, calm as ever, not triumphant, rooted in himself, in truth, in the foundation he had always owned, long before the deed said his name. Downstairs in the lobby, Tanya and Andre and every person who once existed unseen now moved with their heads held higher. And the building felt different, because respect had finally reached the top floor. Change is slow, until it isn't. 2 weeks passed. The hallways felt different now. People greeted the cleaning staff by name. Break rooms stayed cleaner. Conversations softened. Respect wasn't forced. It had simply begun to exist. But there were still a few who struggled. Not openly, quietly, through looks, through silence, through the belief that the world should stay the way it was. And Marcus knew, if culture was going to shift for good, it had to happen where people stood every day, on the office floor, face to face. So he called a building-wide meeting, not in the boardroom, not in a rented hall, right in the open lobby, where everyone existed at the same height. No podium, no raised stage, just people. Employees gathered in small clusters, professional, nervous, curious. The maintenance crew stood on one side, the IT team on the other, the cleaning team sprinkled among them. Marcus stood in the center. No introduction, no title, just presence. "Thank you for coming," he began. His voice was steady, not loud, but it filled the room because people leaned in to hear it. "When I first came here, most of you didn't know who I was, and that was fine. My job wasn't to be seen, it was to see." Eyes shifted, he continued. "I learned something important. Not everyone gets treated with the same respect. Some of you walk into work known, others walk in unseen." He let a beat pass. "But this building works because of all of us." He looked at Tanya, who stood near the back. "Tanya keeps this place clean so you can work." He looked at Andre. "Security keeps you safe so you can focus." He looked toward the front row employees, analysts, marketers, assistants who always carried themselves like they were the center. "And you all bring ideas and skills, but none of us stands above the others. Not anymore." Silence. Listening silence. The kind that means hearts are open. Marcus continued, "This is not a speech about guilt. I'm not here to punish the past. I'm here so we can choose the future together." He nodded to the HR director, who stepped forward and handed him a stack of employee name badges, new ones. Marcus held one up. Every badge now displayed. First name role, not department, and beneath it, team member. Just that. No hierarchy printed onto plastic. "Every role matters," Marcus said. "If we move as a team, we improve as a team." A murmur rippled, soft, thoughtful. Then Lori stepped forward. Not forced, not for attention, but because something in her had changed enough to move her feet. She faced the cleaning staff. "I didn't see you before," she said, voice shaking with sincerity. "And I should have. I want to do better, starting now, with all of you." Tanya stepped closer. Her voice was tiny but strong. "Thank you." And just like that, without applause, without cue, without permission, people started introducing themselves to one another, not in clumps divided by job title, not in roles, human to human, names, smiles, shared ground. Marcus watched, hands in his pockets, quiet, steady. Not the cause, just the catalyst. Evan approached him last. He didn't look embarrassed now, just open. You were right, he said. It wasn't about owning the building. It was about owning the atmosphere. Marcus nodded. Exactly. Evan breathed in, slow. It feels different now. Marcus looked around the lobby, full of voices mixing, barriers dissolving. It is different now. No triumph. No dramatic ending. Just change. Real. Lived. Recognized. Marcus turned toward the elevator, not to rise above anyone, but simply to continue his day, like everyone else in the building that was now truly his. Not because his name was on the deed, because the people inside it finally understood who they all were.